Hey guys, it's Sam here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another manga first impressions review. Today we're going to be looking at Tengen Hero Wars, Volume 1, and this is the only volume that's out of the series right now, if I remember correctly. However, I think the second volume should be out soon. I'm not sure when though. This is written by Kaburo Sakanoichi, with art by Yasu Hiramoto, and the artwork is pretty good. But there's some issues with the printing that I'll mention here soon, right? So the publisher here is Titan, and Titan is well known for having some issues. They launched their manga publishing line 2 years ago, more or less. They used to be an English book publisher, and they focused on printing old pulp novels and remaking them for the modern era, as in they would fix them up. They would reprint them, they would make nice covers for them and stuff like that. However, they decided to start doing comic stuff, and they did that quite a while, kind of like independently, and then up to recently, like in the last couple of years, they decided to properly get into the market here in the States by starting their gun hunting collection. They released Conan the Barbarian, and they also started releasing what's it called? Nor Burlesque, right? So yeah, they also started getting into manga with Kamen Rider Kuga, and this is more or less where the kind of issues with Titan manga began, right? So they joined up with Stonebond, if I remember correctly, and they actually used machine translations, passed it off as someone actually doing the work, and then published the Kamen Rider Kuga volume, right? The first one. I didn't really notice the issues until later, and then once I did, they became kind of glaringly obvious. It made sense why some things were kind of weird in that book, and I was pretty upset, so I basically stopped buying anything that they publish. They published quite a few things. However, this is kind of, it's been a while. I'm sure that they won't have that kind of issue here, and it didn't seem like they did. Everything kind of made sense here. There were other problems with this book that don't have to do with the translation, so I will talk about them here soon. The demographic for Tengen Hero War is seinen. The genres here are isekai and historical fiction. It's not the isekai that you would expect. It's not a generic, like died, somehow ended up in another world and now had to relive my life. It's a little bit different than that, but it is still an isekai. And it does not have an adaptation. I doubt it will. However, with the popularity of Record of Ragnarok, I'm sure that there's been thoughts about adapting it, and it might not be possible for whatever reason, but I'm sure it will eventually. And I bought this partially because I was interested, but also partially because I'm hoping that by buying more titles like this, we eventually get more of them. I really want to read The War of the Gritty Witches, and that seems to be a very cool, interesting series, but it's not available in English in a physical form. I think you can read it on Comic Key or Manga Up. I can't remember, but I don't like using their systems, their apps, because they're kind of these weird, like buy tickets instead of just paying a subscription service type models, and I don't like that, right? So yeah, but the premise here is that there's this boy. His name is Oda Nobunaga. I don't think he has any relation to that historical figure or not. I'm not really sure. But he gets isekai to a new world, this weird land where Earth's greatest heroes and villains have been reborn. And he has to join them and conquer the other heroes that he kind of is super inspired by in order to save his sister, who was isekai'd with him and taken by some evil men, right? So it's quite interesting. I really like the premise. I thought it was enjoyable. I like the character because he is kind of like your generic isekai character. Like, he is kind of like a loser with a weird special interest that somehow is helpful. But he also kind of has quite a bit of conviction, and the kind of premise of him wanting to save his sister makes him slightly different from your average isekai protagonist who kind of just hates life, right? And then they get to the fantasy world and then they forget about their old one and kind of move on, right? Like, there is a tether here connecting him to his old life, which I find enjoyable. Quickly, he becomes a vassal to the original Oda Nobunaga, which is this guy right here, and kind of becomes like a strategist for him after he shows that he has intimate knowledge about all of these great warriors that happen to be in this land. And by the end of this first volume, they're kind of preparing to go to war with this guy right here, who is a Chinese strategist. I can't remember his name. Let's see if I can figure it out here. Zhuge Liang, I think is what his name is. Yeah. Zhuge Liang. Shu Han, I guess is his name. I'm not really sure. I don't know this character. My Chinese history is pretty minimal. And overall, this was cool. I liked it. However, I have some problems with this book, which is what I'm mostly going to focus on, right? So, first of all, this is $13, and this is a skinny-ass little volume. This is not worth $13. There's no color pages at all, which is bad, because they do have colored, like, elements here, like here, and here, right? And one, I think that putting stuff on the flaps is kind of tacky. I don't like how this looks. It's kind of annoying to me, like personally. It just doesn't look good. And secondly, if you're gonna spend money to print in color, don't waste it by making this a worse product on stupid advertisements. I would prefer that they wasted the money, that money spent on printing this in color was spent on making some of these pages in color, right? The other issue, besides the lack of color pages and the skinniness of the volume, is that the printing of this volume is quite atrocious. There's a lot of dark ink here, and well, it kind of gets on your fingers. I don't know if you guys can tell. It's pretty easy for me to tell here in person, but your fingers do kind of start to get black after kind of touching this book quite a bit, right? Especially your thumbs from holding this stuff like that. It makes it kind of unclear to see, right? You can't even read Titan properly right there. It's bad printing quality. The pages here look and feel very bad. Overtly saturated with ink. But also just like, there's not enough difference between, what's lightly inked and what's darkly inked. Like, the grayscale doesn't come out right when there's so much excess ink on this paper, right? However, some of the images still look good. Like this one still looks great, right? Where you see depictions of all of these great warriors here, right? But it's not great. And it's pretty disappointing that one of the first images that you see is this, where you can't make out anything. The artwork is nice though. I like it. It has good expressions. These are the two main characters. That's Oda Nobunaga, the human, the isekai kid. That's a little sister right there, who gets taken, right? And they go through this portal right there, and he hears this voice that tells him, something about taking greatness, and he accepts, and so he gets transported, but he doesn't get a mark that everyone else that's special has, right? And then we have like a little bit of a Vinland Saga kind of moment right there, which looks okay. The printing on this wasn't too bad, but the inconsistency is bad. I don't like that my reading experience is worse off, because this is an expensive book. It's skinnier than normal, and yet it's worse off than usual. So that's not great. Let's see if I can find another page where you can see some of those printing issues. Here's another one, mostly noticeable on the text. It's nice and thick, so the text is readable, but it's smudgy. I don't know if you guys can tell, right? And it just leaves your hands with a really nasty texture, and it's not great. But it kind of gets fixed later on in this volume. At some point, it starts printing better, and you can get a much better appreciation for the artwork here. So, yeah, I mean, is it the worst thing ever? No, but it definitely has some problems that I remember from when I read the Kamen Rider Kuga Volume 1, so there hasn't really been an improvement, even though they've kind of been printing stuff for like 2 years, right? Which is not great. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But overall, I was interested in this first book. It's not as good as Record of Ragnarok. The story is not as similar as you would think. It's not entirely, dissimilar. It's not quite different, but it's not exactly as similar as, you know, the title and the kind of covers kind of lead you to believe, right? But if you like Record of Ragnarok, you'll probably like this, so I recommend that you guys read it. And yeah, there really isn't too much else to say, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought down below. Have you read this book or not? Let me know in the comments, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.